let's take a look at the Rockefeller Foundation's 2010 document called Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development. Let's take a look at this thing. I've talked about this thing in the past. I actually did an entire episode called Clever Together that is based on this thing. And so it's what it is it's a scenario where it's like a tabletop, like if they were just thinking into the future type of thing, where they're coming up with 4 scenarios that would unfold if certain things happen to reveal what's going to happen. Now, again, there's 4 of them. 2 have already happened. I've talked about one, Clever Together, but there's one before that as well. 2 have already happened. And what we're seeing this pattern unfold seems to be gearing up for scenario 3. So again, let's take a look at this thing. Here's the 4 scenarios. You've got Lockstep. That sounds familiar, right? Clever Together. Then you've got Hack Attack. And then Smart Scramble. Now, this is the 4-part scenario breakdown that the Rockefellers released in 2010, where they think that if these certain things play out, these scenarios will come about. Well, Lockstep, that was 2020. Lockstep is exactly what you think it is. It's about getting the governments on board with more top-down control, all in lockstep with each other. Then you saw Clever Together, which has to do with bringing, basically coming up with solutions to giant global problems with the technology. Then there's Hack Attack, which I think we are about ready to witness come to action, really. So if we look, Lockstep, a world of tighter top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. Does that sound like 2020 and 2021? You'd be right. Clever Together, a world in which highly coordinated and successful strategies emerge for addressing both urgent and entrenched worldwide issues. What are some of those? We talked about it already. That's your climate change. These things are actually in the document. Climate change, Internet of Things, Smart City, DPI, which is your digital public infrastructure, and disease stuff, vitamins and whatnot. Well, we've seen all of that coming about now too, right after Lockstep, right? Well, Hack Attack is next. An economically unstable and shock-prone world in which governments weaken, criminals thrive, and dangerous innovations emerge. I think we're about ready to see this one come about. So let's take a look. Let's kind of take a jaunt through this to get an idea of what's going on with Hack Attack, shall we? Let's talk about this part first. Now, again, this is, made up in their words, made up scenarios for things, but you're going to notice some very familiar things in these, whether they've happened already or we're starting to see them happen now. But you can see here, these are circumstances forced through tough trade-offs. In 2015, again, this is their made-up scenario, but just hang with me. The U.S. reallocated, there we go, a large share of its defense spending to domestic concerns, pulling out of Afghanistan, where the resurgent Taliban seized power once again. Didn't we just see that happen not too long ago? I think we did. In Europe, Asia, South America, and Africa, more and more nation states lost control of their public finances. How many countries out there are in extreme debt that they'll never be able to pay back? They're losing control of their public finances. With government power weakening, order rapidly disintegrating, and safety nets evaporating, there we go. Violence and crime grew more rampant. Are we seeing that? I think we are. I think we are seeing that. Countries with ethnic, religion, or class divisions saw especially sharp spikes in hostility. Again, we're seeing that. Look at what's going on. Again, we'll just use the U.S. and Europe as an example for right now because it's just easier. But it's going on in other places too. Ethnic, religious, All this stuff. There's major clashes going on between these groups of people. Look at what's going on with the recent uprising with all the Hamas and Israel stuff that's going on. We got clashes in Europe and United States. You look at the ethnic stuff. We got the BLM and people just attacking each other for being different races. You got major clashes going on that way. I'm using this as an example because that comes straight from Yuri Bezmenov. This is exactly what he was talking about. When it comes to this, we are seeing this scenario in more ways than one. We're talking about the withdrawal of Afghanistan, losing control of public finances. We got major clashes for religious and ethnic groups and all these things. This stuff is happening exactly as they predicted it would. It's crazy. Okay. If you go down again, it's talking about, meanwhile, overtaxed militaries and police forces could do little to stop growing communities of criminals and terrorists from gaining power. I mean, we got criminals running wild all over Europe and United States. And then they're at the end, technology-enabled gangs. They start increasing. If we take a look, internet scams and pyramid schemes plague inboxes. Meanwhile, more sophisticated hackers attempted to take down corporations, government systems, and banks via phishing scams and database information heists, and their many successes generate billions of dollars in losses. What have we been seeing we'll just use this past year specifically, 2023. We have been seeing an increase on hackings and theft and all these things in corporations, government systems, and banks all across the globe. These things are increasing. How many examples do we really need to see all this stuff? Well, let's just keep going, just because why not? Just take a look. Verifying the authenticity, there we go, of anything was increasingly difficult. We're seeing a lot of that with AI, right? Doesn't matter if it's video, audio, picture, words, doesn't matter. We have absolutely no idea if it's true or not anymore. We just don't know. Things can be made up so easy, you can't verify the authenticity of these things anymore without AIs working. It goes to recognize seals of safety and approval. Approval proved ineffective when these seals were hacked. So they're trying to cause verification on things. Doesn't matter, they're getting hacked. The positive effects of the mobile and internet revolutions were tempered by their increasing fragility as scamming and viruses proliferated, preventing these networks from achieving the reliability required to become the backbone of developing economies. They've been pushing all the DPI and everything like that. We're a source of trustworthy information for anybody. We're seeing a lot of some very, very fascinating things that these were supposedly predicted, just predicted, not, that's it, in 2010 by the Rockefeller Foundation. I mean, we're seeing word for word all these things come to fruition. Let's take a look at the last bit here. Can't buy their way out of chaos, which was most people, retreated to whatever safety they could find. With opportunity frozen and global mobility at a near standstill, no place wanted more people, especially more poorer people. It was often a retreat to the familiar, family ties, religious beliefs, or even national intelligence. Trust was afforded to those who guaranteed safety and survival, whether it was a warlord, an evangelical preacher, or a mother. In some places, the collapse of state capacity led to a resurgence of feudalism. Hang on to that. In other areas, people managed to create more resilient communities operating as isolated microversions of formerly large-scale systems. The weakening of national governments also enabled grassroots movements to form and grow, creating rays of hope amidst the bleakness. Now, pay attention. By 2030, the distinction between developed and developing nations no longer seem particularly descriptive or relevant. Okay. We talk a lot about all the technology that they're implementing, trying to bring the thumb down on people. But in order to reshape the entire world, to bring in a global government and in a global economy, you have to tear everything down and put them all on the same level. That's exactly what they're talking about. By 2030, developing and developed nations, you can't tell the difference anymore. And they're talking about feudalism, bringing back feudalism. I've spoken a lot how things seem to be lining up for a neo-feudalistic technocracy. If you guys have been around my channel and you've heard me mention that somewhere. Because I believe that that is the system that they're trying to bring into place. You've got the kings, and then you've got the peasants who are controlled by the king's technology. I didn't just pull that out of thin air, out of my pocket. I've thought long and hard about what they're trying to do and what the Bible specifically is pointing to. They're pointing to, with this one world government, you're talking about the 10 kings and the Antichrist sitting up at the top as kings, controlling the entire world in a feudalistic style system. That scenario is pointing directly to that. And a lot of the things that they predicted back in 2010 either have already happened miraculously, or they're on their way of happening. We can see it progressing in that direction. They're telling us what they're doing. And the fact of after Lockstep and Clever Together, the next one would be Hack Attack. And we're starting to see that come into play. Their warning of that exactly. I think that's going to be the next step. Just my opinion. Not predicting anything. Just showing you guys what I have found, and we can go from there. Now, with all of that in mind, the warning at the WEF Davos, the Cyber Polygon stuff, all the warnings, the videos, as well as the Rockefeller document, which 2 of the 4 scenarios have already happened or are happening now. With all of that in mind, where's this leading? What's the next step? Well,